Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to D&D Celebration. Welcome to our Adventurers League introductory panel. So whether you've been playing with us for many seasons or if you are brand new to the Adventurers League, we are going to talk all about it today. I am Lynn Dzura. I am one of the community managers for the D&D Adventurers League, and I'm going to be joined by two of my wonderful coworkers, Crook and Bee Zelda. Ma'at, would you like to introduce yourself?
Why, yes, I would love to do that. My name is Crook, and I'm the Sensitivity and Inclusion Lead, which means I read through a lot of the D&D Adventurers League adventures and other content. I'm the one that helps you with content warnings and helping writers and the editors make the materials even better.
And you absolutely slay at it.
There you go.
That leaves me. Hello, everyone. My name is Bee, they, them. I am the newest member to the AL team. My official title is admin and or the Dungeons & Dragons influencer, which is to say, as things kind of pick up, I'm going to be the one that is helping out get some Twitch programs off the ground. We want to see more people streaming. We want to see more people playing AL, which is another reason this panel is going to be so incredibly essential, not only to newbies, but folks who are already into this. It's just going to be answering all the questions, ways to find out how do I play games, how do I stream games online, and we're going to answer all of that.
Yeah, we absolutely are.
Yeah. Sorry, I got on a roll there. I'm like, I just want to talk about all the things, but
yeah,
that's why we're here. We talk about all of the things. So if you're unfamiliar with the Adventurers League specifically, it's the official organized play program for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And so what official means is that Wizards of the Coast and our admin team, we oversee the general sort of house rules that everyone participating in the Adventurers League will follow. So we have rules for players, we have rules for DMs, we have adventures that we write specifically for the Adventurers League, but you can also play the hardcover adventures published by Wizards in Adventurers League as well.
And
So the rules are only slightly different from what a DM might create on their own. So we just, in order to keep everyone on the same page, so that everyone has the same expectations coming to a table, or if you go to an event, or if you're playing online, one of the games here at D&D Celebration this weekend, we all sort of start off on an even playing field.
And every dungeon master, every person that runs a D&D game has house rules, even when they're not playing D&D Adventurers League. They have certain rules for like how the players are going to build their characters, rules about anything they're going to any options they're going to use that are in the player's handbook or the Dungeon Master's guide. Every DM, every Dungeon Master has such house rules. The difference is with the Adventurers League is that we all follow the same house rules. So that means you can take your character from one game to one D&D run Adventurers League run game to another, and then come back to that other game.
So I have to ask, is that something that's newer to AL, was being able to take your characters from like one game to another, or has that always been the way of it?
That has generally, as far as I've been participating, been the case. So the D&D rule set is released, and recently they've updated, usually in the fall when the newest hardcover adventure comes out. But I played my first D&D game at a small local gaming convention at Philadelphia, and then when I got kind of like hooked on D&D, we found a game store in New Jersey where we were able to continue playing with those characters and those adventures. And since then, I've been lucky enough to find games in Atlanta at Dragon Con, at other events around the country, played online. So it is a fairly standard pillar of the league where your characters are portable to other events and to other DMs.
I really love that. And to even break that down kind of smaller, what I found incredibly interesting was, as a D&D player that kind of started with homebrew games, we would look at the player's handbook, we'd look at a pre-existing adventure and be like, I'm going to take the first sentence of that adventure and then make it my own. But every time I would join a game, the DM would give me different rules for my character. I rolled for my stats. Well, actually, I need to do the standard array, or I should do roll 6 dice, drop a handful. So I'm absolutely in love with just the standardization across the board, because when you play with such a variety of people, it messes up kind of the flow of your character. You don't know what you're getting into when you go into everything. But with AL, everything is just so streamlined, and it warms my cold little heart.
You do not have a cold heart, but maybe you've got some dragon blood in you.
Ooh.
Nobody's supposed to know that.
But speaking of dragons and interesting new things that are happening, Ma'at, have you explored the D&D Celebration map at all yet?
Yes, I did. So if you go to DN, the letter N, dcelebration.com, you can click on a link on the menu. There's a link that says Event Map, and there is this beautifully illustrated map, and each of the locations are labeled. And do some exploring on that map, because there's some really good goodies in there. And I won't tell you where, but you can see a preview for the Drake Warden Ranger and the updated rules for the Metallic Dragonborn. And those are going to be, this is a sneak preview for everyone listening, those are going to be legal for Adventures League play. You will be able to make a character using these now the word's escaping me, these character features, something.
And so for folks who aren't familiar with what is AL legal, because that was something that was, as a newbie kind of coming into this, trying to figure out, okay, like things aren't allowed. Maybe, Amy, could you kind of give even just like a brief kind of understanding or explanation of like what constitute things that are AL legal, and like why, for example, the Drake Warden Ranger, which also so cool. I love new Ranger options.
They will be on October 19th. Once Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is released, that is when they'll be legal to play.
Absolutely. And so something in Adventurers League being considered AL legal is just that it is an option available to the characters who are the players who are creating characters to play in our games. So we do, because the creativity of the D&D community is just absolutely incredible. We can't, because it's a shared campaign, we can't include all of the options because there's just so much. So what Wizards of the Coast does is they designate, here are your player rules, here are all of the options that you're allowed to select from. So in our Forgotten Realms campaign, we have, your standard books, your player's handbook, Volo's, Mordenkainen's, like you have those for player options. And then as new books are released, we add to those lists. As of publication of The Wild Behind the Beyond, the Witchlight, we have player and character options, races and backgrounds that can be used in AL play. It's just sort of, because players are so creative and have so much, we want to make it easier both for players and for DMs to sort of like, these are the options. Everyone knows what's coming in. So you can't necessarily create your own race or your own type of character that you want to play outside of those books, but you can use the rules as presented by Wizards to create what you want within those boundaries. So that's what we mean by illegal. When Fizban's Treasury of Dragons comes out, it's going to open a plethora of new options as part of that AL legality for everyone.
It's the house rules.
It is.
Yes. I love that.
Another thing that we said about what is D&D Adventures League is we said it was D&D's official organized play. What does organized play mean?
Oh, okay, that's a question. That wasn't just you. Okay. Organized play is the when you might not necessarily know that you're going to be able to sit down with the same DM or the same set of players every week. You'll be able to everything sort of runs in the same campaign, even though you might not be playing with the same people week after week or day after day, depending on how often you get to play. You can take your character that you start at one game, you can take it to another game run by another DM. So if you follow the AL rules and you're playing a game with your family or your home group, you sit around on Thursdays and get into some kind of adventurous trouble. If you follow AL legal rules, you can take that character online this weekend to D&D Celebration, and then maybe next weekend you want to play at a charity event that can either be in person or online again. But then you can then bring that character back to your home game. So you can have all of these adventures with all sorts of different DMs and players and groups. And that's just sort of, it keeps everyone, like I said, like sort of on the same playing field, but it's a really big field. You can go out and wander and explore, but we keep everyone together.
So we've got a little bit of conversation. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to again say following those same house rules.
Yeah.
And because we're following all the same house rules, we can jump from game to game.
It works seamlessly. So kind of on the conversation of organized play, in the Twitch chat, we had a little bit of chatter going on about where to find games. And I know, so we have the availability of in-person games and online games. But Maat, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about what are the methods that folks can go through to be able to find games nowadays? Like, how do we do it?
Oh my goodness. I first found my Adventures League game by just typing in Dungeons and Dragons and then the area that I lived in. And I came up with a bunch of game stores that were running Adventures League games every week. Same time, organized by wonderful event organizers. And I got to sit at the same table with a growing social circle. And that's how I found it. But since then, I have also found games. Well, this as recently as last night, I went on to dndcelebration.com. I found some. I went to Yawning Portal as well. And we will provide a link to that in the Twitch chat and afterwards in our Twitter. But you can find games there being run. I saw that there were still a few games available to play this weekend. So Yawning Portal is a place that you can go for not only D&D Celebration games, but also the virtual play weekend games. And those are done every month. We just had our monthly game last week. And there will be new postings for next month too. So that was my Google search. D&D Celebration virtual play weekend Yawning Portal. You can also check on Meetup, Warhorn, but Roll20 and and Fantasy Grounds are really good places to find them. If you go to Roll20, you can click on the Join a Game button. And Fantasy Grounds also has a lot of games that you could join there. Oh, geez.
Yeah, there's a lot of VTTs that are available that kind of have games running.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of that. I am an online gamer through and through. I started playing D&D online. I've played like 5 games in person, maybe. Not even. I'm a bit of an anomaly in that sense, but it has been an absolutely fantastic, and it's just so easy to find everything, depending on whatever VTT you use. There's always a section where you can look for games that are playable. And like nowadays, there's websites even where people run games, and like AL is so incredibly popular due to the way it's streamlined that there's no shortage of ways to find games online.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Please, Amy.
Oh, I was just going to jump in. If you are new to playing D&D or other tabletop games online, a VTT is a virtual tabletop system that will have tokens and maps and character sheets that makes it easier for both the DM and for players to interact over an internet connection to play like your shared games. So with COVID, everything has moved online, and the virtual tabletops have just seen an incredible increase in their popularity. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, I have to figure out how to run a game, using the like minis or like physical dice. Some people do. They'll get a Discord connection or a Zoom chat going, and they've got their character sheets. And Theater of the Mind is very popular, where you just it's all words. You don't necessarily have maps, but platforms like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds make it easier for those players and DMs who prefer a more visual connection with their players, or if there's maps and tactics that you want to figure out, like, am I far enough away from this owlbear in order to cast a spell? How much movement do I have to go up and hit it with my staff? So those are invaluable resources for players who are looking to connect with both, if they have a regular gaming group or if they're looking to find a new one. The virtual tabletop platforms are great for that.
And I believe D&D, they run virtual play weekends. I'm not sure what the schedule for that is like, but like virtual play weekends are fan-hecking-tastic for finding games online, especially if you're intimidated by joining Discords or other methods. Like, it is something that has been organized in part by us. So it's facilitated by people like GMs that we're familiar with. And that kind of buy-in should hopefully make it easier for folks who are nervous with getting into AL for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. And the virtual play weekends have, this is an introduction to D&D. If you haven't played Adventurers League or even D&D before, there are GMs who love teaching new players. And the games are shorter, and they're going to be they're going to start you sort of at the very beginning. They'll help you get your Discord profile set up. They'll help you get if you're using a virtual tabletop, they will walk you through every step of the process. And it's so great because it can be intimidating when you're meeting new people or starting something new, especially after sort of the isolationist lives that we've had to lead recently. And so having someone who is experienced to help you through that is just a phenomenal resource. And then once you get your feet wet, if you your character survive the first intro to D&D session, as your character levels up, there will be more games for you to play, either later that weekend at Virtual Play Weekend, or if you want to come back next month, there'll be new adventures and new people to play with. And it's almost its own community that's being built around this amazing game that we all love to play.
Yes. And speaking of that, we almost missed a really big way to find a game and to connect with that community is the D&D official Discord.
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't know how we missed it because we were there all of the time.
Right? Somebody in chat and Twitch helped me out, and then like I got like the D&D, like they linked it, the Discord, because it's literally just D&D, or excuse me, discord.gg/D&D. You're never gonna forget it. It is perfect. And the resources are unlimited. The channels are fantastic. The conversations are endless, especially, you know, if you're passionate about something very, very specific. You know, you have your table group, but they're just not as into, you know, your wizarding stuff. And there are channels where you can just talk about how fantastic your wizard is and all the spells that they cast, because this channel not only facilitates fantastic conversations, there's also places for looking for games, looking for players, looking for DMs. So it is a marvelous resource.
Absolutely. And whether it's, you know, if you play both Adventurers League and more of a homebrew style D&D, we have channels for all of those. You can go into the Discord server. There are welcome rules to read. There's another channel where you can decide what part of the server you would like access to. So if you only want to be a player, you can select the player role, and it'll only show you the player resources. If you're more of a DM and you want access to more and you want to talk like, how do I, you know, what's tactics for this monster that I'm going to use, or what's a really good adventure to run for these new players, or I want something to really challenge my higher level players, there are DM channels that you can access with when you select your DM role. There are also Adventurers League specific channels where you can come and talk about the new AL rule set that just dropped, or the adventures that we'll be releasing, or hey, did anyone get to play that new Drake Warden Ranger in a game yet? So it's kind of amazing. I think we've all made so many friends just from participating on the online forums and getting to hear what adventures people are playing and the new characters that they're going to build with some of the new Witchlight player options. It's like a brand new like friend group that you can just immerse yourself in.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many friends that I've met through D&D Adventurers League that still, this many years later, I still love seeing their faces on Zoom games or in the Discord or in real life conventions, sitting and playing with them at a table. And actually, I have played many games with friends, people that I've met through Adventurers League, and will this weekend as well.
Absolutely. Now, so what are the advantages to you, to Bee and Maat, to playing in an Adventurers game? Like who might be interested in playing in the Adventurers League?
Well,
do you want to go first?
Everyone.
Yeah,
all of us.
We have so much to say. I'll do one and then I'll pass it to you, Bee.
Okay.
So for me, I wanted to play more often than once a month, and that was the extent of how often my homebrew game folks could play. So that's when I did that search and found Adventurers League games that I could play every week.
I like that. So for me, not only is my schedule an impossibility, trying to get a regular group of like my real friends together to play D&D with me is just, it's never gonna happen. So with Adventurers League, these things are already set up, they are scheduled, often like there's a GM set up for you, so it's just a matter of me picking the time, getting a character ready, making sure everything matches the requirements, and then I'm good to go. Like I hate to say, like, for the modern person who never has time for anything, AL is genuinely fantastic for that, because we all know the trouble of trying to get games started with your friends and just feeling frustrated about that. And this is a way to alleviate that frustrations and play all the D&D you've ever wanted.
And speaking of someone who has an irregular schedule, if you travel frequently for work, for pleasure, and you're like, oh, I want to play some D&D tonight, you can look up game stores or events in your local area and find out if they have Adventurers League offerings, so that you're not just rolling up to a table and being like, hey, what are we playing? What can we do? Like you'll know going in that this is something that you'll be able to participate in. You could like plan out your entire D&D travel schedule if you wanted to. If you find a store wherever you're headed, and it takes away some of those unknown factors where you don't know so much of like what a DM style might be. Now every DM has a different style, but with AL rules they keep you they give everyone the same set of expectations. So if you're in Miami and then you go to Detroit or you go to Los Angeles, like you know that you'll be able to find a game.
Even outside of the US as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. As a Canadian, as the local Canadian, let me tell you, I've never had any issues finding games because our cities in this heckin' country are a little bit more spread apart. Major cities are usually your best bet, but if there is a local friendly gaming store, you are usually in luck.
Oh, absolutely. We have international community members. Speaking of, we have games on virtual play weekends being run in Portuguese because the community is just fantastic. There are tables dedicated to Portuguese-speaking GMs and players, and we know how we have a strong community in Singapore and in the Philippines.
Enthusiastic. Yes.
It's Italy, like everywhere.
Germany. Like, it's so nice.
It really is. It's amazing too to be able to see what cultures will bring and like the styles of play that everyone shares and what differences might be in a local community, and those all sort of mishmash together at something like the virtual play weekends.
Another reason that someone might want to join the Adventurers League community is if they've been wanting to play D&D but have no idea how to get started, and maybe they're worried about the rules, about they don't have any idea how to create a character. It's just a mystery at this point. You can go to find an Adventures League game and the community will help you out. So many of the games I've been to, there is always at least one person, if not all of the people there, who will help you do all of those things and have no expectations that as a first-time player that you should know how to play this character. They're very welcoming and very, very much want people to come and have fun as well. Another thing is for someone who wants to be a first-time dungeon master, wants to run a game for the first time. Adventures League adventures are written so that they're a bit easier to just pick up and play and just run them. You don't have to come up with a whole new world, a new setting. You don't have to sit down and create an adventure from scratch, which sometimes is the case for people who play homebrew. If they're not picking up one of the hardcover books, they may, a lot of people try to create those things. And if a DM doesn't have the time or doesn't have the experience, or they're a first-time DM, the one-shot modules, the adventures that are available, can be an easy way to pick them up and just start playing.
Absolutely. And the fact that the Adventurers League generally follows rules as written is a blessing to some of us who can't keep up with or aren't creative enough to write their own rules or their own settings, or like I just dive right into other people's creativity because it is not my forte, and I recognize that. And instead of beating my head up trying to name my 17th NPC, because let me tell you, you just start Googling synonyms for things that you want them to look like, or a personality trait. everything's like prepared there for you. You have a self-contained adventure. You know what the rules are going to be if you've read the player's handbook and the dungeon's master's guide and the monster manual. You know what to expect, and you can just get started right there with everything at your fingertips.
So I have a really good question in chat that is kind of relevant to this topic. Three Dragon Minimum is asking, are there children-focused AL games and sessions? Because this is something even I'm not familiar with, and if I had to guess, I would say no, unless the GM were to flare it that way.
That is absolutely like a thing that I have seen, where there are, you know, tables for younger players. There are games that are probably reviewed in advance for, you know, tones and themes in the story. But yeah, I actually, at my local game store a couple years ago, I ran a younger table. We went through some of the adventures that were released with Volo's Guide to Monsters. So it may be on a DM or location case by case basis, but it is absolutely something that I've seen out in the wild per se. Mm-hmm. And so it might take a little more digging or looking to see if there are other young adults or children who are interested in playing. We get a lot of requests for those like in our Discord channels or in our community email inbox. So if you're looking for one, talk to us on Twitter, talk to us through the Discord channels, and we'll do our best, and we might be able to point you towards a community that has something like that.
I love that. It's just accessibility. I die for it. Anything that just creates space and is accessible we need more of that.
And absolutely. I think right now, D&D is sort of geared to that 12 ages and up, but DMs can absolutely modify content as needed to account for younger players.
And if you go to dmsguild.com, there are some Adventures League adventures that have been written with younger kids more in mind as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there is some flexibility for DMs to be able to, as they do the prep, edit out things so that they can do it to play the adventure to a younger audience, or just because they don't particularly want to. There may be some material that they might be stronger than they would want to do. You can adjust that.
Absolutely. And this weekend, during D&D Celebration, the preview or the prequel module for the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, there's a game we're running this weekend called Lost Things. Not only is it kid-friendly, but you play your characters as if they were younger versions of themselves. So they are children sort of maybe stepping out into their first adventures, and you get to explore some of that when they were younger, and you go and you enjoy the carnival and all of the delights that it offers. It will be released, Lost Things will be released next week on the DMs Guild. It'll be free to everyone, and you'll be able to explore those before you really set off into the Feywild.
And last night when I was looking through all the adventures that are being run this weekend, I did see that there were several Lost Things adventures still open.
Ooh.
I might have to get on one of those this weekend. So we've talked a little bit about the different campaigns that you can play in the D&D Adventurers League. The primary one is set in the Forgotten Realms. Wild Beyond the Witchlight is considered part of that because your adventures start out in the Forgotten Realms, but any of the hardcover adventures that are published by Wizards of the Coast and set in the Forgotten Realms generally are part of this overarching campaign that your Adventurers League character can take part in. Now, Ma'at, what can you tell us about the Ravenloft Mist Hunters campaign?
Oh goodness! Well, that was started after Van Richten Guides to Ravenloft came out, and it is written by there's a epic written by two of the members here on the panel. me and Amy wrote an epic that you can play. And I guess this is the time to jump in and say, what is an epic?
Yeah.
So an epic is a cool way to play a 4-hour adventure with multiple tables, and things that one table does may give benefits and help to other tables or affect them in some way, and you get big rewards. It's a huge crowd. Um, the successes you can just feel in the whole room because everybody is playing the same game. And this can, when they are published on dmsguild.com, there's a way to play with one table, but when you play at conventions, it's usually multiple tables. And I have been in a game that was like 15 tables all playing the same game.
Oh, wow.
It's an experience that I personally haven't seen elsewhere. So to be able to talk excitedly with your friends who may have been playing at a different table, you catch up with them after, like, oh, did you manage to infiltrate this thing, or how did you manage to defeat those bad guys? Now, I believe there are 2 epics in the Ravenloft campaign. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes. Yeah, I believe you're right. Yes. I think there's one at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And one for that you start out with a level 1 character. Now, these Mist Hunter adventures, they jump from plane to plane. There are these are different types of horror settings. So if you know about Barovia, for example, that has a lot of vampires and Frankenstein-like monsters and werewolves. And there's another setting that is more about mazes, and there's an Egyptian themed inspired setting. So you're going from different domain to domain, solving a mystery.
That sounds pretty fantastic.
Yes, it is. You can pull out your magnifying glass and put on your deerstalker hat and get ready to solve some mysteries in a horror setting. And we do, because it's a horror setting, and with any content that you play or read or watch, content warnings can be super helpful to prepare the person for that experience. And so Mist Hunters does have content warnings for them. We have things like safety tools that tables can use so that they can help help people keep having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And like, content warnings might seem a little off-putting, but we've sort of found that it's better to go in prepared, so that if a player's like, oh, I don't really like spiders, so this adventure could be full of spiders, or just those different horror-themed tones, that both DMs who are going to be running an adventure and players aren't blindsided by a kind of content that they might just maybe not want to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
They go in
big fan of safety tools for that same reason, and that kind of falls under the umbrella of accessibility, because you're not like, it makes it easier for everybody to access these things. They don't feel uncomfortable. The games that they're either running or the players that are going to participate, like, it creates that safe environment, and that kind of leads a little bit into, like, what are safety tools? Who do they benefit? Why do we have them? Why do we even do them? And I say this shocked, like I don't love them, and I will not. You can't stop me from talking about safety tools any day, because if I can make every single game of D&D and anything safe in the entire universe, I would provide all the documents, the tools to the players and the GMs, just to make sure their game can be fun and safe for everyone.
And we can leave some links in the Twitch chat. But we have lots of different ways to use safety tools. Lots of different information. We have an article that we wrote specifically for running the Mist Hunters games, but a lot of the information in there can be used for any campaign, for any adventure. So some of the things it includes are the TTRPG, the Tabletop Role-Playing Game Safety Toolkit, and that is collected by Kiana Shaw and Lauren Bryant Monk. There's a link in that article to their collection of all different safety tools that you can choose from depending on what you're wanting to do, what you feel comfortable with, what your table feels comfortable with. What they've done is there's so many people in the community that are just as excited about caring about how other people feel and wanting to make sure everyone is having a nice time playing these games. So people have come up with different ways of different things like an X card. So if something comes up in the game and you feel uncomfortable, you can put out an X card, and everyone at the table knows to stop whatever is going on right then and just to move on. That is just one of many examples collected in the TTRPG Safety Toolkit. We the article also discusses things like just simply talking about what is, just without giving spoilers, just talking about what's in the game, what the players and the DMs want from the game. And you can find this article on the Yawning Portal site. Are there? Do you two have a favorite safety tool that you really like?
Amy, go ahead. I have like 100. Seriously. So if you wanna go ahead first, because I can talk all day about that.
I really like lines and veils, so where everyone knows where everyone's sort of boundaries are, and you don't have to cross those lines, and you can sort of draw veils against subjects that you're sensitive about. So the things are maybe described in a game but aren't gone into in detail, so that everything's just sort of like fades to black, and then you move on and come to the next subject in your game.
Mm-hmm.
Lines and veils are my absolute favorite, and I don't know if I can do any self-promotion, but I wrote a blog article not too long ago for Roll20, where I have a Google Doc that is set up to for your lines and veils. It's very user friendly. My cat in the background could probably use it, and it just it makes the contract of this is what I'm ready for in the game, this is what I don't want to encounter. It just makes it like an anonymous agreement. And there's even a section for romance, because that's one of those things that I don't usually go into a game of D&D thinking I'm going to romance that ogre. I usually want to fight them. But nonetheless, some players have those expectations. And if you don't always have that lengthy time for a session 0 to talk about, here are what our expectations are, here's what we want out of this is what we're getting into, the lines and veils really just kind of clarifies it and codifies it in a really simple way. But there are so many other tools for safety. And I am a rather regular Twitch streamer. I play oodles of games online. And one of the methods that we like to do sometimes to try and almost include the audience in a way is the red, yellow, green light. Green, go ahead, although that doesn't always work when you have a green screen. But green is right. Red is kind of like the X card, where it's just, I want this to stop. I don't want it to continue. Let's take what happened and rewind. And then yellow is kind of like the tentative, so far so okay, but I'm just going to put this color up just so you know that I'm kind of feeling about it. And that gives your players, the DM, kind of folks around you to be like, okay, let's consider what's happening and let's maybe ease back a little bit. I'm a very visual kind of learner. So if I have lots of like things that I can hold, it's just very appealing to me.
Yeah, I've used those too, and I would 100% agree with that. The something you mentioned too is like a group agreement.
Yes.
And so we wrote an article on creating a code of conduct, and any of the events that we support use this information to create a code of conduct for their event. This is just like an agreement between the organizer, the DM, and the players that these are the kinds of behaviors that we would love to see. These are things that that would make the things not fun, not enjoyable, the things we want to avoid. What if those things happen? What can someone do? Who can they talk to? Where can they find these people? And when they do it, will their confidentiality remain like inside just those people that need to know? Can they report anonymously? How can they report anonymously? And then what are some of the possible consequences for breaking the code of conduct? What does a warning look like? What could someone be banned, for example?
And that's the kind of information that's really important, that if you are dropping into an Adventurers League game, if you're playing at a new store, you're making new friends, or you're out of town, like having that information presented and available to you ahead of time makes it really easy to know if that's something that you want to spend your time doing, so that if you feel more comfortable going to a game that has a code of conduct in place, you'll know what kind of behaviors and expectations are already set to keep our players and our community and our DM safe, because we all learned stranger danger growing up, and sort of this now we get picked up by Uber and by strangers in cars, but like just being able to say, these are our expectations, this is how we're going to keep you safe, so that you can go and explore the world at new tables with new players, with new DMs in new game stores, and just sort of keep everyone safe and happy and enjoy themselves.
Even the people that you know as well, really well.
Absolutely.
Oh, truly. Mm-hmm. Safety no matter what,
Mm-hmm. And you know that everyone there has agreed to this, and everyone should be aware that this is what's expected and this is what can happen, and that there are people that are willing to listen.
Yeah, I think that's very important too. Like, no matter what is going on, like, there's always somebody you can reach out to. There's always somebody you can talk to, because, I mean, even in the Twitch chat, folks have kind of talked about their hesitancy with playing with strangers, and that's very, very normal. But just know that we have policies in place to make sure everything is as comfortable and safe as possible. We want to make this fun for you. We don't want anybody to stress about, like, oh, that player over there is not really that kind. We're here to help, and we're here to make this a fun experience for everybody.
And the organizers, whoever is organizing that group of play, they are hopefully using a code of conduct, and you can check and ask if this particular group is using a code of conduct. And if not, you could suggest, well, let's get together and make one.
Yes. Because in the end, if everyone is happy and safe and comfortable, everyone's going to have a better time, because you are more comfortable being your authentic self at the table, and that's what's best for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. And even though we don't talk about this stuff in normal day-to-day life, it sure can make social interactions a lot easier. And it, like you said, some people aren't comfortable playing with strangers. So maybe knowing that everyone has that group agreement will help will help someone feel more comfortable to play with that group. Also, someone who is marginalized, who's not white or not male, not a man, any of the ways that someone doesn't have a privilege that they have been hurt before, been abused before. That's one of the things that can make things a little less scary and hopefully prevent a lot of issues.
I feel like that's probably why I'm so in love with safety tools, because I've had to deal with those situations. And it was growing pains. I started playing D&D 4 years ago, and it was a matter of kind of like trying to figure out like that social contract. I need everybody to agree about how are we all going to be safe, because a lot of the time I usually show up as the marginalized person. I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of white cishet men, and 9 times out of 10 they're fantastic, but there's always that one time where I'm just like, oh my goodness, what happened and how do we make this better? So safety tools, y'all.
Yes.
All right, so we are getting some questions in chat if we are ready to start filtering over there.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So any idea for helping people with disabilities feel more included while playing?
Oh,
absolutely. Matt, you've done some research into this with tools for using fonts when you create your adventures. And I believe you were doing, you found a character sheet that was dyslexic friendly, right?
I tried to make one myself.
Oh, wow.
See, I don't. If I did, I have forgotten about it in this fear of being on camera.
That fear is real.
Yeah, I can. That's one of the things that I would definitely like to create some yawning portal articles on.
Absolutely.
And if I did find that, I will add a link to it on Twitch. But yes, those are the kinds of things that you can look up online. Is find out what fonts are great for someone who has dyslexia, and ask if you have a player that has told you that they are dyslexic, then you can ask them what font works best for them. They know way better than even some of the researchers that I've researched, because for one thing, it's on an individual basis. So yeah, there that can be one of the things. There are dice that have braille on them. Is that dot dice?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It was so good.
Yeah. And
I've had the opportunity to play to DM for some low vision players, and it's even just sort of a mental shift too, where you have to sort of get in the mindset of like describing more of the things that are happening. That if you're using a battle map, your character is 30 feet away from the 2 monsters that are standing in front of you, and so the other 2 players at the table, and even the players themselves who might have disabilities that they're playing with will be able to tell you what their needs are. And don't be afraid to speak up with your DM. Be like, okay, can you tell me how far away I am, or could you repeat what you said? We definitely want Adventurers League to be as accessible for everybody as possible.
If you have a physical, like you're doing an in-person event, make sure that your tables are far enough apart, and the chairs are far enough apart that someone can easily fit through, whether they're in a wheelchair, have other mobility aids, have an oxygen tank, strollers. Just think about those kinds of things. Having a chair available for someone who is deaf and can hear somewhat or reads lips. you can have them be closest to the DM or in a place where they can easily see the DM. There's so many things. This is we're running low on time, so I would just say that this is a good reminder to me not to forget to write a number of articles about this and have some guests bring some information. Yes,
we have a fan favorite in our community, Jen Kretschmer. They're at Dreamwisp on Twitter, and I've been subscribing to their disability conversations since the beginning. They're probably a fantastic human being to bring in for conversations like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the articles that you mentioned will be published on our Adventurers League blog, correct? It's the Yawning Portal. So the same place that you would go to sign up for your virtual play weekend games. We have a blog, which is all of our AL information. It'll be announcements about upcoming events or rules changes or the adventures that are being released. We will have a series. Ma'at has written before about the safety tools and the code of conduct. And so they can continue to provide those resources for everyone in our community. But that's where to find them.
Yep. All right, I got 3 rapid fire questions. Let's see how quickly we can answer these.
Okay, see our producer typing at us.
Okay, are the event map prizes considered an event reward per the ALPG?
Yes.
Yes. Easy. Y'all may have already spoken to this, but could you talk a bit about checkpoints versus XP for character advancement as quick as possible?
Sure. When you play an adventure in the Forgotten Realms campaign, as soon as you complete it, you have the opportunity to level your character at the end of the session. You can also decline advancement, but no checkpoints, no XP. Play a game, and you're good to go.
Yes, and then finally, streams for Adventurers League. Honestly, stay tuned, Twitter, y'all. I am helping out with this. This is a project that I'm very excited about. There are so many streamers out there that are already playing Adventurers League, and we want to be able to highlight them. I want more places where folks can see these adventures being played. So you'll have to stay tuned for more of that information.
Yeah, and that's a really good resource. If you don't know what an Adventurers game looks like, head to YouTube or to Twitch and look it up, and you can see what an adventure might look like, what kind of characters. Now, every table is going to be different, but you'll be able to get an idea for the play style and the fact that some of the adventure modules are self-contained stories. So in 2 or 4 hours, you can complete an entire adventure. You're not settling in for an entire hardcover, but they're bite-sized and more manageable on a crazy schedule. So if you want a taste for what you might be experiencing when you go to an AL game, go ahead, give it an internet search, and it'll turn up some games for you to watch.
dmsguild.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, this has been really fun.
High five.
Absolutely.
This has been marvelous. Thank you, everybody in chat, for showing up, asking these questions. I hope, especially as an intro to Adventurers League, I hope this was kind of a great way to learn about how to get into it. Whether you're new, whether you've been doing this for 40 years, now is the best time to get into it. With the changes to all of the rules, everything is it's so smooth. It appeals to my simple, cold dragonborn heart that it's perfect. So if you're not into Adventurers League now is the time to get into it.
Absolutely. I guess we'll start. Bee, where can we find you elsewhere when you're not an Adventurers League admin?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I am a rather busy bee. You can find me on Twitter as @B_Zelda. I'm a podcaster, a member of the Broadswords, a host of Anime Attaché, a player in Iron Edda, a player in the Power Play podcast. I am also a rather busy Twitch streamer. My schedule changes week to week. I always dress up. I'm always creative. I live for tabletop games. I'm also an aspiring game writer. So honestly, y'all just follow me on Twitter for all that good game stuff.
All right, Ma'at, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter @Crook, and you can also find me on my website at maatcrook.com. And I also have some adventures on dmsguild.com, Adventures League adventures, and a few homebrew.
And I am your final panelist here today. I am Lynn Dzura. You can find me at Lady Dzura. I post a lot to Twitter. It's me, it's gaming, it's my dog. I got a lot of dog photos there. Tomorrow night, you can join me and Ed Greenwood. We're raising money for Duchenne muscular dystrophy for Quest for the Cure. If you search that hashtag, you'll be able to find our game. I think there's actually 3 games playing tomorrow all day. We're raising money. I think we're getting really close to hitting that like $30,000
Oh my gosh,
mark.
Nice.
Right? Over the course of a year, we've been playing on a monthly basis. The D&D community is fantastic, y'all.
Yeah,
like
truly.
so supportive, and I'm hoping that those of you who are maybe like wondering how do I get into D&D, we'd love to have you in the Adventurers League. Like, come talk to us, come ask us your questions. We love new players. We love old players. We love all of the players. So
high five.
I think absolutely. We go that way. But
okay.
Have a wonderful D&D celebration, and we will hopefully see you at an Adventurers League table soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.